Now, please, let me advise you. As a young man, as a young woman, grow large in your spirit. Grow very large. Give yourself to fasting. Give yourself to prayer now.
Some points. Okay, 2 Corinthians chapter 6. He did not have a right, but he found a reason. And for many of us here, he has found a reason. He has found a reason to put a bondage upon you. And you must be instructed in the things of the Lord in order for you not to afford Satan the opportunity to bring you into bondage. He can even bind your ministry. You are anointed, you are powerful, but your ministry is in chains. I know you don't believe that's possible. Come with me, 2 Corinthians chapter 6. He said, be not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. That's the instruction. Every form of bondage that comes on a believer comes because of unequal yoking. I don't have time to open a few other scriptures to us and show us 5 things, 5 conductors that can conduct demonic power. 5 things you allow that constitutes what we call a demonic open door. And I'm not talking to unbelievers, I'm talking about believers. He said, be not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. Then he now says, number 1, what fellowship had unrighteousness with righteousness? The first matter here is that if you have fellowship with unrighteousness, koinonia, participation, transport, oneness, that's the word there, koinonia, right? It means participation, it means transport, it means being a partaker. If a believer is found in fellowship, in koinonia with unrighteousness, Satan has secured a ground. He has found a reason. So Satan is is a researcher. If he researches into your generation and he doesn't find any ground of iniquity, he will continue in your mother's generation. He will continue in your father's generation. He will find, and meanwhile you came from under their authority. So he can take advantage of the authority through that iniquity to bind you. But you see, that's why you need to know and to have the knowledge of the Constitution, so that when you are bound, you can tell Satan that I am a daughter of Abraham. You see, Jesus was quoting from the Constitution. His faith position was from the Constitution, and that day Jesus was operating as a law enforcement agent to enforce the will of God in this matter. You get it? You understand me? Fellowship with unrighteousness has already put you in a point where you become a victim of something that is not in the new covenant. Hey, just stay there. Or let me go back. Number 2. He said, what concord has Christ with Belial? Once upon a time, an election was held. And in this election, it was obvious that one of the candidates was standing for Jesus. Another candidate did not want to hear about Jesus. And there were believers that were on the side of that candidate. What has happened is that there is a concord. And there were preachers on the side of that candidate who was obviously averse to Jesus. He said, what concord has Christ with Belial? So Jesus is revealing to us a situation where light can be extinguished. Light finds concord with darkness, its brilliance will be taken away. It's not every day light wins. You pitch it in concord with Belial, it will die. So, O theologian, even the saints can be bound. Should I go on? After concord, he now says, what part has he that believeth with the infidel? Parts and portions. Parts. There's something I have with an unbeliever. There's a relationship. I'm sharing emotion with him. I have a part with him. Satan did not have a right, but Satan found a reason. So have I answered the theologian's question? So no need for us to continue, so that I can add one more matter. The one more matter I want to add is what we call the shadow of death. It is a destruction. How many of you read the book of Psalms 23? The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. So the story of Psalm 23 is that as long as he was foolish enough to allow the Lord lead him, the Lord was leading him to good places. And the time he decided to lead himself, though he led himself to the valley of the shadow of death. The shadow of death is a situation when death casts a shadow. I hope you know what a shadow is. If the shadow is cast, it means the reality is not too far away. Before death covers somebody, it casts a shadow first. It's when we start praying that I will know in this congregation if there are people that have the shadow of death here. When we start prayer. I was supposed to deliver a few items to us, but we can only do 2 for tonight. Legal bondages, which are based on transactions, demonic transactions, transactions with demons. Like the person that I saw, that the spirit that is contending with you is from the water. That is because of transactions that your parents did, and because of the principle of headship. You have inherited that transaction, and you never fought against it, and you never renounced that spirit. So the spirit is also part of the baggage of your inheritance. You have a part in it, not through your personal transaction. You have a part in it through the transaction of your parents. So if you do not denounce it, you do not fight against it, you do not war against it, even though it is not, Satan doesn't have a right. Because of your consent, it became your bondage. We're going to pray because of time. I don't want to keep you for too long. The promise I have to Pastor Ben, my great friend, is that I will come back. Don't clap. Just listen. Just listen. Because he can clap. Pastor Ben can clap if he wants. Now, what I intend to do is let us sit down and study the Bible for a few days. After studying it for a few days, some of you will be delivered without prayer. Let's study it for a few days. And you'll be amazed what is in the Bible. that you have refused to look at. A believer can be bound, and indeed many are bound. Oh, you don't understand inheritance. I've called you to reap where you have not sown. I've called you to straw where you have not bestowed labor. Your hands doesn't need to be involved in an inheritance. Oh, have you not read the scripture that said a good man leaveth an inheritance for his children? What do you think the meaning of that scripture is? Inheritance. 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 In his goodness. He's a good man. He's good to people. He's good to his neighbors. Good to everybody. He's helping people that are fatherless. He has secured an inheritance of goodness for his children. His children are going to be naturally better than the other children because of the investment that came as an inheritance. And it's not only good things that transfer from the lineage, demonic things also transfer. So when you know you come from a demonic lineage, you take advantage of the constitution. That's when you quote that scripture. I am a new creation. This is not my portion. Any transaction you had, it doesn't include me anymore. Because by reason of the covenant that I have with Jesus in redemption, my destiny comes from Jesus, not from this lineage. You need to insist upon it.
Now, please, let me advise you. As a young man, as a young woman, grow large in your spirit. Grow very large. Give yourself to fasting. Give yourself to prayer now.